Welcome, everybody, to the Homegrown Tomatoes Captains Tournament. We are in draft day today. Leading up to this, we had a Proving Grounds phase where the group of participants that are looking to enter the tournament participated in a series of in house games where the captains, as well as the admin and casters, got to mix the games up, keep all the players off balance, try them in different roles on different champions, and see what they had to offer. Some people might be one tricks, some people might be good at multiple roles, some people might be better at a role that they didn't know. So we had a good mix of games over the last couple of weeks, and that is all culminating into today's draft. So our captains were watching the games as much as they could to evaluate each of these potential recruits and put together the best team they possibly can in this draft. With me today is my good friend Maladorn. Hello, Maladorn.
Hello.
Yes. Both of us have been spectating these games and or casting these games together, and I think that both of us have developed a pretty good sense of what the general field looks like, and I think we'll have an idea of which captains are paying closer attention to the games than others. Yeah, so there's some pretty clear front runners that we found. But let's just go over each position one by one and highlight the players that we thought were kind of standout cases or anything that might be a dark horse. Is there? So top is, you know, very limited. We've only got three available top laners here. And so they'll be split across the four teams that we have as Team Fair Champ is captained by a top lane main. So um, Maladon, is there anything that really stuck out for you with the top lane pool that we have here?
Kind of goes without saying, at least for me, probably Supro
Mm-hmm.
SC had some awesome games, and there's the his Darius stood out. Uh,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. His Darius is real scary. He earned a pretty terrifying reputation pretty early on, and I thought that he was. Let me turn you up a little bit. Um,
check 1 2.
yeah,
That
let me
better.
turn you up a little bit if I can. Yeah, user volume. There we go. Okay, I got you higher.
All right.
All right. Yeah, totally agree. Supper SC is yeah, his dare is really terrifying. Immediately. And it's funny because when Cy first came onto the scene, he was taking people to the cleaners. He seemed unstoppable. He was drawing a ban for a set. We thought his set was a one trick. Then he showed Tryndamere and he showed Garen, and he really performed really well up until Supbro SC came onto the scene and really challenged him for the crown of the top lane for this tournament. So I
I
agree.
wanted to say,
Hmm.
yeah, like if you are wanting to run like split push comp, like definitely like Psy, like
Hmm.
he will run that shit down. And the I saw a game where he was even playing Shen, got behind on Shen, but he was still making like good teleport plays. So I think that he has potential to expand his influence for the rest of the match. But yeah, like if he's ahead, he is steamrolling.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I agree, and I think that that's kind of like a that's not a strategy that every team is going to be able to have. Like Sai is the only one out of I'd say the entire pool who plays like that, who's just going to nonstop shove top lane. And so I think split push strategies are more difficult to pull off for sure than like the typical team fight front to back stuff or like a hyper carry comp. But they're also more difficult to defend. Like a good split push team is going to force you to make choices and force you to make difficult choices. And if they're ahead, they can create no-win scenarios where your team just gets pulled apart on both sides of the map, and you don't really have a good answer for it. Um, so I think although I would give Supper SC the edge in terms of just the 1v1 matchup, Psy does give whichever team he's on a huge option to split push. Um, and he doesn't give up either. Like we've seen him behind in games before, and he's yeah, like you said, just like you said, he's maintained relevance. Um, you'll see a lot of top laners typically at this elo try to force their way into back into domination, but as soon as Sai was beat, he switched over to tank and focused on just CCing and peeling and setting up engages, and he still was impactful, even though he might have been behind. Um, who do you who do you think would be? Do any of these? How early do you think either any of these guys would be get picked?
Um, I guess, like you said, in the Deadliest Warrior terms, I would be giving the edge to Supro SC probably getting picked first, but I can't say I saw a ton of I Will Outscale You, and I
Hmm.
didn't get to see the namesake, which was kind of sad because Kale was one of my go tos as well back in the day.
Yeah, I would have loved to see him play Kale, but unfortunately he did get his Kale banned in both of his games. He did have a pretty decent showing on Riven though. But I don't but he never crossed swords with Supro SC, so um, that's kind of a wild card. But yeah, I agree. Like Supro SC is probably going to get picked first, and I think he's definitely going to go in the. I think he has to go in the first round. And I think that probably Sai might because the top lane is so sparse, and I think that there is a pretty big drop off between Supro and Sai versus I Will Outscale You. I think Sai will probably need to get picked. He's he's not he's not making him past the second round. He might even be picked in the first round, depending, because solo laners, especially top lane, is just yeah. You don't want to be behind the game. So we'll see what happens
Uh,
top. But
unless you think you can make it up with like a jungler to help cover up the weakness or help
that's
deal
true.
with the skill gap in the top lane.
That's
But
true.
I don't know. I'm not a captain. We'll find out.
No,
I'm
I
excited to see.
Yeah, me too, me too. And I do agree with that too. And some that's what we were doing with some of the teams where we would have a mismatch in top, but then try to counterbalance it with jungle, and it did create some pretty competitive games. So you're absolutely right. Like the jungle intervention can definitely tilt that lane, and if you get a top tier jungler instead of the top tier top, then yeah, it could even out.
And as was kind of outlined, there is not like a resident jungler on any of the teams. So that
Yeah,
I don't know if you'd be giving up top pick to try to get the jungler first. So we'll see.
yeah, we'll see. Yeah. Okay. So let's look to mid then. Um, so who are the standouts you think in this grouping that we've got here?
I definitely saw Force put in some work. It seems like he has a reputation that precedes him. Um, I saw him and a Kali player duking it out, very close uh, trades and kills and that. But I feel like Force is probably going to be one of the MVPs as well as just like everybody's probably going to want him on their team.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think he's a first pick all around. I think him or I mean, for if he doesn't get picked first by Pyro, I my head's going to explode. Because I think like you can't give up. You can't let a player like Force go. Yeah, like you said, like he stormed into the scene. He's established himself as the benchmark for mid laners in the whole pool. He's showed his mastery on not only Yasuo but a host of other champions. And I think that he's attracted attention from multiple mid laners who've wanted to fight him.
Yeah,
In the mid
yeah.
lane, yeah. And I think like even like some top laners have wanted to like jump into mid lane and see if they could take Force on. So like he's yeah, he's absolutely like you're right. He's made a name for himself. He's really just kind of planted his flag in the mid lane, and I'm really curious to see if anybody's going to be able to challenge him for it. You know,
I mean, when you are playing games and you solo queuing or whatever, and you get in there and there's a Yasuo that is on the enemy team, he is that Yasuo that's on the enemy team
hmm
that just destroys you. Versus the one that you get that feeds and becomes irrelevant,
yeah,
till yeah.
yeah,
Um, I'm trying to remember. Dennis, was he Vlad?
yes, correct, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
he did some work as well. So like, I think it depends on what kind of comps you're wanting to run or the champion pool
hmm
for your team. Uh, but if I was drafted, I would be picking him first.
yeah, 100%. Um, and I think the remaining mids are kind of tough. Oh, and just to sing Force's accolades just one more time. Like, you're 100% right about him being the Yasuo on the enemy team. Like, Force has played Yasuo in ways that I've not seen him played before. I mean, even in my elo, and even when I got up the plat, like it's his timing on his windmill, his dashes. He uses his dashes to dodge. He holds his windmill for the correct skill shots. I've seen him like he's been attacking somebody straight ahead, and somebody flanks him, and he has the windmill up in time to block the flanking charm. Uh, the guy's just a freaking savage, and you can't ban him out. That's the other strength is that like teams could throw 2, 3 bans at him, he's still gonna perform, and he's still gonna dominate in the mid lane. So um, yeah, scary dude, scary dude. Um, I do like Dennis too. I think that he has a lot of versatility because he also does play the top lane, and so he could be somebody that you might flex into top lane depending on because his Vladimir's good, his Camille's really good. So I think if you are in a point in the draft where you can't get Supper or Sai, Dennis might be a good substitute for that. He's also pretty decent in mid lane. Um, yeah, and I think, and then Talia was a late entry that we had. Um,
I caught a couple games
mhm.
yesterday. Yeah, she was on Ari,
Ari, correct. Yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah, she did well. She actually she had an opportunity to play against Force. So she didn't play until the very last game that we had, and so I'm not sure if enough people actually got to look at her. But she went toe to toe with Force. She went toe to toe with Tomato Paste in the mid lane, and she performed really well. Force said that she was one of the more difficult opponents that he had out of the tournament, so that's definitely saying something. Um, just surviving out against Force is good, but being able to like pull out a win, that's definitely something to be said. So I wish we did get more games with her, but I hope that she did put up enough of a performance for the coaches to recognize that, or the captains to recognize her skills, because her eye was pretty devastating. Um, yeah, she caught Yi multiple times. She just blasted Nami. Like she picked her targets really well. Good roams. Just a smart player overall. Yeah. So, do you want to move on to the jungle?
sure, by all
All
means.
right, the biggest pool that we have. So who got your attention from the jungle?
I'm trying to. Izzy is definitely a force to be reckoned with on Warwick.
Hmm.
Is that
Yes,
right?
correct. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I liked Izzy's Warwick a lot. He is one of those junglers that seem like he always can be in the right place at the right time. Um, and I think he's a really aggressive jungler. Probably not as aggressive as like Troll, but he is. Yeah, he's got aggression that his team could play around. I've seen him make plays where he needs his laners to rotate to him, or he needs like a Shen ulti to kind of like extend the play. But in those instances, he was able to come out on top. So I think like with the team that's aware and a team that's like really minding where he is and minding their own priority and how they can assist him in like invades or just fights in the river, I think he'll do really well for whatever team he's on. Um, for Troll, I like Troll. He does have a really volatile playstyle though. Um, he's one of the more feast or famine junglers. He could dominate a game, but he can also fall really far behind. The one thing I did see for him consistently in like every game is that he's will snake an objective or two within the first 20
Yeah.
minutes. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He's
He
really
was
good.
getting Rift Heralds and Dragons like undetected
Yeah,
under the radar consistently.
totally for free, and not even on champions like Udyr or Nunu, who you expect. He's doing it with like Viego, or I forget who else he's played, but yeah, yeah, he's every game he's getting 1 or 2 objectives for free. Um, so we know he could like track the enemy jungler well enough and mine the lane states well enough. Yeah, I think he just has to temper his aggression a little bit, but definitely one of the more one of the higher risk, higher reward junglers, I think. So, um, yeah, and just
Who do you think is going to get drafted first?
I think Supa Saern has shown really good performances. I think towards the tail end of Proving Grounds stage, I think he was kind of memeing up a little bit. His Udyr got banned a lot, but when he did get his Udyr, he performed really well. His Kha'Zix is really good, and whenever he's not memeing, he's just a super high performer. So I think he's a really good pick. I think he would probably be the first picked out of the jungle pool. Um, I'm also a huge fan of Nintaku. He's uh he's got really good ganks. He is highly communicative with his team, and he is very coachable, highly coachable. Even though he's probably, I think, one of the lower ranked if you looked at their solo queue ranks. Even though Nintaku is one of the lower ranked, he does not play like it. Like he's held his own against Super Saiyan, Izzy, Troll. Um, I would put him up close to the pack, and I think that he could get even higher if he continues to get coached, because he's learned a ton at the start. So yeah, I think he would be a really high value pick. If he kind of like lays like if they're late in the draft and like a lot of the junglers have been picked up, Nintaku might be a dark horse that's like left open, and he would be a freaking bargain to get like in the third or fourth round because he's going to perform eventually like a second or first round jungler, I think, with more time. Um,
That's a good point that you make. I would definitely value that in terms of a teammate, somebody that's going to actually like listen to the shot calls and uh, take suggestions.
mhm.
Is I probably value that over somebody that's going to like butt heads and not stick with the strategy.
Absolutely, yeah. Um, and for some fun picks, we did see Great Eight Bait Mate playing Maokai in a Mumu, which is like,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, you don't see that in the jungle like at all. And I'm like, cool, man, let's freaking take it back to like season 6 and 7, man. That was great times. Freaking tanks in the jungle, like, uh, you don't see that, and I love seeing tanks in the jungle just because like playing support, everybody wants you to play the tank, and you're like the only tank on the team, and you have no gold, and you can't tank. So,
I'm
um,
trying to remember. Was he playing that into Shyvana in that game? I can't.
I think so. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think one more side note I would have for the jungle too is that so we've got Ham Lazy in the jungle. He originally registered as a jungle main in ADC secondary, but he ended up performing crazy good on ADC. His Ezreal is like just phenomenal. Um, uh, yeah, I think like I can't even remember what his jungler was like just because of how good his Ezreal is. Uh, like I think every game like he posted up really good numbers. It was like 10-3 and 8 or like 12-2 and 12 or something. Um, and he's still posting up huge numbers as Ezreal while losing. Like I think he lost a game and that he was like 12-2 and 8 or something. Um,
Yeah, it didn't matter the state of the game. Like he was performing well, win or lose on the team.
yeah,
I don't even remember seeing him in the jungle. Sorry if I missed that game. But yeah, he was like on Ezreal. I think there was one with Kaisa. He was
yeah,
kiting the shit out of people.
yeah,
Like, yeah, that's something to consider if
yeah.
you want someone that can do both roles. But
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think some teams are going to kind of leverage that because we have opened role swapping to where like, even though these players are registered as like specific roles, there will be a little bit of switching allowed. Or there will be a little switching strategies coming up with some of the teams. Because a few teams came up and said, "Hey, can we do role swapping? Are these guys locked?" I'm like, "Yeah." Do you have plans? They're like, maybe. So I'm like, okay, all right. So Ham Lazy could definitely fill that niche. Um, I would even draft him as a bot laner at this point. His Ezreal's just so freaking good. So um,
agreed for
yeah,
what I saw as well. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, and that's not
I love the poke comps, man.
yeah.
Like
That's your bread and butter.
that's a poke and siege, man. Like that's
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, I like it. So yeah, so that's a good segue into our bot laners, I'd say.
sure.
Yeah. So our bot, we've got three actual like registered bot laners, but I would count Ham Lazy as a halfway into that in that pool as well. Who were standouts for you for the bot lane?
Definitely Huache.
Hmm.
If for anything, the arrow plays, just that alone will make for a great highlight reel.
Hmm.
Um, but like Huache and Anna were both like just solid ADCs from the games that I saw.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I Huache's arrows. I think those are like the times where I shouted the loudest during our games. Where like Huache like lands an arrow from cross map like over and over. Every game she gets one. Um, yeah, like I really like Huache is like I almost feel like depending on since I don't know, it's kind of tough because I feel like Anna is super solid. Untitled Meme is also super solid. They're really good ADCs in the fact that like they can farm at a turret, they can push turrets, they can manage their waves. They're never gonna get like taken out of the game. Like they're really solid performers. Um, but Huache has that like that extra flair, and she could like generate kills for herself just by like solo 1v1ing, or she could generate kills across the map with her Ash arrows. Yeah, she's got a really good sense of the game. Her Lucian's just freaking scary. And I think another advantage is that like she's a bot laner that will draw bans. Like a lot of these teams are going to be concerned about banning solo laners, but with a player like Hwache, you kind of gotta consider banning some of her stuff. Like her Lucian is really freaking scary. I think we saw,
Agreed.
yeah, we saw an instance where she like flashed into her turret and like got away with it, and I don't know. She's killed people where I didn't think she had kill threat. Um, Clearly she would have killed me if I were in that situation too. So, um, that's a
She almost got away. I think that the returning ADC had like Swifties or something and was able to just
oh
like barely like they almost got out of there like
yeah,
with the two kills like clean. Like
yeah. Yeah, that was close. That was really close. I do remember that. Yeah, the Swifties got Jin back into range to kill her, but she was about to run right off back into the sunset with all the huge gold, but she got sent back home. Yeah. Oh yeah, her Zaya is also ban worthy as well. Um, so yeah, I think typically most of the teams are probably going to try to draft solo lanes really early on in the first and second rounds, but Huache is a really good consideration for an early pick too because she could generate like two bans. And it's like I think if an ADC is contesting bans during the draft phase, that's going to be a pretty big deal. Um, just because it could free up some of your solo laners, power picks. So I think yeah, she brings a new dimension to the picks and drafts. Yeah, it's just clearly just an amazing ADC. So um, yeah, anything left for the bot lanes for you?
I think that's about it. Yeah.
Okay, cool, cool. All right, so let's go on to support. Yeah. So speaking of poke comps, anybody in particular you like in the support pool?
Um, I mean, yeah, it goes without saying. Like Zilly, just Vel'Koz is what I played the most. She had good results to the point where they're banning out, Vel'Koz are just not wanting to have to deal with that sort of thing, and I can understand it. But she was doing work.
Mm-hmm.
She got. I mean, it's kind of happens when you play Vel'Koz. Like you end up getting most damage on the team if you are, doing stuff like that. But yeah, man, like poke comp, I would definitely pick up Zilly for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, her Vel'Koz is super ban worthy, and and the great thing is like she plays like so many other champs too. Um, she's not just tied to Vel'Koz. Like her Nami is like phenomenal. She could. I feel like I haven't seen her play on a. Yeah, I feel like I've seen her play like four or five different champs at least. And she's performed really well in all of them. And I think that tying into like the Huache argument, like if your support players like drawing bans, that's also a good thing that'll free up for your solo laners. Um, but yeah, and the other thing too is that like just the threat of Vel'Koz is enough to draw a ban. Like whichever team she ends up on, like they may not even have any intention of having Vel'Koz in their comp, but just by Zilly being there is enough to say, I think we should just ban Vel'Koz because I don't want to freaking deal with that, before you even like see what their comp is. So, um, just the implied threat of her picking Vel'Koz and like tilting the entire game and having an impact on every single team fight she's in. Um, yeah, that's really too big to ignore.
I
Um,
guess the other side of the coin, like if you have that on your team, they pick these, super tanky champions. Vel'Koz could be the answer to, cut that stuff down or to deter team fights.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And yeah, it's not, we have like an embarrassing amount of like really good supports. But Zilly is like a definitely like a build around support player. Um, yeah, like she doesn't just facilitate, but she can also be like, the core of a team composition. Um, yeah, so that's a really good trait for her, and I think that definitely puts her in the conversation. I think for the top support. Um, yeah. Anybody else that kind of grabbed your attention too?
I remember seeing Elcrest play some games. It sounded like they were somebody that would specialize in champions that Zilly might not necessarily
Mm-hmm.
play as much.
Mm-hmm.
But it seemed like they always banned out Leona, so I didn't really get to see a ton of that.
Yeah, yeah, me neither. Yeah, Elcrest's reputation as like an engaged support player is definitely known across the teams, and I think that he's earned it. He's always had really good engages, and he plays all of them. I think there was a game where he got banned. His Leo got banned. Um, I think like all the hook champs got banned except for Not, and he got Not, and he was just a peeling machine. It was peeling madman. There's Riven in the game. She was just one-shotting everybody, and then in the last couple team fights, like she was just getting hooked and rooted and knocked up, and like Locket was popped and stuff, and like she just could not,
Yeah,
yeah, finish off the target. So like, um,
they had set up a really good like Riven got behind the enemy team and was coming up to them right as they were going into the top base,
mhm.
and Nautilus was just like, no, like you're not getting out the ADC, and
Yeah,
that's kind of what turned that fight around for them.
yeah, that was huge. That was huge because I think it was late enough in the game where like that team fight was going to decide.
Yeah,
Um,
whoever won that was going to clear out the other space, so
yeah,
it was.
yeah. So Elcrast is like, yeah, yeah, he's the opposite side of the support coin of Zeely. And he really just yeah, like if you want like a solid tank, solid engage, good peel, like Elcrest is your man for sure. Um,
I can't remember if he got Leona one game or if that was somebody else playing Leona, but they were like playing it into Morg, and that was kind of like a not super fantastic scenario.
yeah, 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 I think so. Yeah, the Morg is I hate Morg. You just have to ban her. You just if you want to have
But hey, we
fun.
saw Morg juggle. That
We
was
did.
fucking
Yeah,
sweet.
that was.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm glad that finally happened. Yeah, hopefully that gets more popular before it gets nerfed. I'm happy casting it. I'm happy seeing it as long as it's not in my games. I ban her 100% of the time. Um, yeah. But yeah, one support that I want to highlight too was Drewbert. He was in the so he was not unable to play until like the very last night of our games.
so that was last night. He was on Seraphine, if I remember.
Seraphine, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, huge impactful ultis. I really liked his warding. His warding was like I think his early and mid game warding was the best I've seen out of the group. He was tracking the jungler, he was clearing vision, he was roaming, and then also, staying in lane to get, not falling behind in XP. Um, so I think like, and he also played Karma too, and just completely
oh
stuffed.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that was against the Yasuo bot lane, and he completely stuffed Yasuo's aggression every time. Um, and it was after I think Seraphine and Lulu, maybe Janna got, no, I don't think Janna got banned, but Seraphine and Lulu were banned for sure. And it left him Karma, and he still just rocked it. Um, yeah, so he's got a really good sense of when to go in, when to pull back. So it's just a very smart enchanter player overall, and just fantastic with vision. Um, I think a lot of these games are kind of chaotic, and it's hard to track stuff. But like he was the one that had super proactive vision out of all the support players that I had seen, at least in the early and mid game. Um, yeah, that really stuck out to me. So yeah, I really like seeing that. And I personally, am not a huge enchanter player these days. I used to be, but I
What?
know, right? Yeah, I've gone into tanks. It's kind of crazy when tanks are terrible. Tanks are, it's yeah. I had to shelve Gianna. She's just not doing it anymore. I still have Nami in back pocket, and it just seeing.
Dude, you have like an unreasonable amount of games on uh, Xylian. I
Yeah.
know this. I know this for a
Oh,
fact.
yeah, yeah. Well, he's if you want to count him as enchanter, I don't know, but yeah, I'm still playing Zillion, so yeah. Um, we'll move on. But Jubert, boss ass enchanter player. Mad respect for you, sir. Um, yeah, I wish you were able to play more because um, yeah, I'm worried that like they may not recognize uh how damn good he is. Like between him, Zeely, and Elcrest, I don't know who I would take as the first support to be picked. Um, like for me, I'm just a freaking sucker for like smart wording, so I would just pick Drewbert without thinking really. But um, I don't know. They're all freaking good. They're really just. I think out of all the roles, support is like the tightest. Because they're all good at the role, but in very different ways. Um, so yeah, I think it's kind of like you. They're all freaking Ferraris, man. It's just which color you want. That's really what it comes down to, I think. So um, yeah, yeah. And yeah, that's all I got for support. How about you? Do you have any notes left for support?
Um, I would pick Vel'Koz.
Yeah, yeah. Bill all the time.
If they're going to take him out of the mid lane, at least have him in the bot lane.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. So let's go on to so Phil um is Tomato Paste 64, but I feel like we've only put him in mid. Maybe he did bot a couple times, but um,
Didn't he play like Lucian mid?
he did. Yeah, that's right.
So
That's
that
right.
might be why it's confusing because you're like, oh wait, like that's an eight, but wait, he's in mid. So yeah, tomato paste like seemed really solid all around
He did.
from the games that I saw. I didn't really see any huge like misplays.
Yeah, and I think so we stuck him mid. I think his first game just to like cover because like Force wasn't around or whatever. And he played Pantheon and he did really really well in Pantheon. Um, he had some awesome ultis. I remember. He was using them reactively, not proactively, but he was using them when an enemy team had overcommitted and he just did like the Master Yi thing where like you've spent all your cooldowns, you're about to win the fight, Pantheon ults your backline, and he's just fucking he's killing everybody. Um, and so that got him. So he's getting Pantheon permaban now. Um, I don't know how teams are going to use him. I would use him as a mid laner, but we've already got like four pretty good mid laners. Um, so I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where I would put him because he's Phil. Great mid laner. He can fill and bot probably because he did. Yeah, he did have that Lucian mid game. So um, I don't know. And he's a good communicator too. So he could be like he could be a legit fill in the gap for whatever team has it. Like uh, I don't know if he's gonna. I don't think he would get drafted early, but I think one team is going to see like, oh, all of the mids are gone or all the tops are gone. I need to get somebody before it gets too late. They're gonna grab tomato paste right away. Because he's I think he's gonna be a backstop for sure. Um, I could see somebody like if the top two picks of a certain role are gone, get tomato paste because he's gonna be right up. He's gonna be up there. Um, yeah, that would be my guess. So yeah,
Didn't he play Mordekaiser?
yeah, he did. He did. Yeah, yeah, he did. Yeah. Um, and I think like he's kind of like I don't know if he's got like as a fill player he doesn't I don't feel like he's got a super specialty, but he's got like 85 in all of his stats. You know, like maybe nothing's 100, but like everything is like above average. So like you could put him wherever you want, and he's gonna play well, and he's gonna like um, communicate with the team and stuff. So
Consistency.
yeah, consistency, and that's really like the name of the game. Because like a lot of the players, especially because of this elo, there's a lot of volatility. Um, but Tomato Paste is like he's a very consistent performer. He's not going to let you down, and like there's a lot of times where you just need somebody solid, and because if you get somebody volatile, lane could get blown, people start tilting, they start getting quiet in comms, and it's just like they're just gonna feel like they're dragging the team down, which is a terrible place to be. Um, but yeah, Tomato Paste is like he's super solid. The dude's a rock. Yeah, and I'm curious to see what more new things he's gonna bring to the game. Yeah. Um, yeah. I think that's all I've got for my general feeling of the player pool now. Do you have anything else that's hopping out at you?
Nothing that's jumping out. Would you mind if I stepped away for just a second
Yeah,
before we
let's take a
move
little
on to the
drink
next part?
break. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I need to get
Nice.
some water. Yeah,
Sweet.
thank you.